Today is Thursday, the 30th of August, 2018. Way up at the top of the northeastern border of Syria, almost up in Turkey, just a few miles west of Iraq, sits the city of Qamishli. People have lived in this area for thousands of years, since the 4th millennium BC. But the current city of Qamishli dates back to the 1920s, when the Ottoman Empire was committing genocide against the Assyrian people. Some of the people fled Anatolia and eventually settled down in this area. And in time it became a home to a very large Christian population. Qamishli is renowned for its annual Christmas parade. They have a big parade through the streets each December. When the CIA kicked off this so-called Syrian civil war back in 2011, Qamishli ended up taking on a pretty big political role. What had happened was Kurdish separatists, with the backing of the CIA, and also with the backing of France, they declared this northern region of Syria to be outside of the authority of the Syrian government. They said, "This is ours." And they named their territory Rojava. And they made Qamishli their de facto capital. Now, that's back then. Let's skip forward to this week. Throughout the month of August, the Kurdish authorities have been demanding that all of the private Christian schools that have thousands of students in them throughout northern Syria, they've been demanding that they abandon their existing curriculums. And the Kurds essentially sacked the Christian school teachers and installed their own instructors who would teach the Kurdish approved curriculums. Now, there are a number of problems with this. For one, the Christians say that the Kurdish curriculum is full of terrorist ideology, separatist ideology that they don't want to be taught to their children. Another concern is that many of these school children hope to attend Syrian universities. They want to go on beyond just their lower education. And these original Christian curriculums qualified under Syrian law to satisfy the various entrance requirements for the students that want to go on to college in various parts of the country. But this Kurdish curriculum does not qualify. In fact, the curriculum is quite anti-Syrian. So the Christian community is upset that the Kurds are basically ruining their children's hopes for a higher education and consequently hope for a better life than what they currently have. Yet another concern is that the Kurds are demanding that the Christian children be taught in a totally different language. The Kurds have forced them to stop using their native Arabic language at school and instead speak in Kurdish. So basically, these U.S.-backed Kurds are trying to de-Syrianize the region. They're trying to create a nation of their own, carving it out of greater Syria, and part of this includes the propagandizing of the children against the country to which they actually belong. Most of Syria's Christians, not just up in the north, but all over the country, most of them have been loyal to the Syrian president, Bashar al-Assad, because Assad and the Syrian army have fought like crazy during these years to protect the Christian community from ISIS and from other U.S.-backed terror groups. And if you read the comment sections on my videos, occasionally you'll see some of these Syrian Christians confirming what I'm saying, that the Syrian Christians overwhelmingly support the Syrian president over the U.S.-backed groups. Well, the Christians in northern Syria refused to go along with these Kurdish plans for them and their schools. What had happened was the Kurds responded by sending in their armed militias. They sent them around to the private schools. They removed the administrators by force. They changed the locks. And they've basically forbidden any of the Christians from returning to school. They shut down all of the Assyrian schools, the Orthodox schools, the Christian schools, shut them down. But yesterday morning, the Christian community took to the streets. They rose up in protest. And a lot of Muslims joined them. They held hands, they locked arms in solidarity with the Christians against these U.S.-backed Kurds. So the people take to the streets, including their Christian priests. The Kurdish PYD and SUP militiamen enter the crowds, and in some of the videos, you can hear them firing warning shots in the air. They're trying to disperse the protesters. But these protesters wouldn't back down. In one clip, you can even see a Christian woman going toe-to-toe with one of the Kurdish militiamen. I think she's kind of forcing them to walk back, to retreat. You'll notice in photos that the Christian and Muslim protesters are carrying Syrian flags. Syrian flags instead of the Kurdish ones. So they clearly are demonstrating their support for the Assad government in Damascus over this Kurdish imposed government. The protesters went to some of the schools, including the St. Gabriel School. They also went to the school at the Church of Our Lady. They broke the locks off that the Kurdish militias had placed on them. And then they went in and rang the church bells as a sign of victory. You can hear some of them chanting. I asked one of my sources, one of my contacts, what they're saying, and he told me that this translates as, with our soul, with our blood, we will sacrifice for you, O Kamishli. If any of you out there speak the language and can confirm that, I think that's what they're saying. In fact, not all Kurds are in agreement with these heavy-handed tactics that are being used against the Christians. I saw one person who wrote this in social media. He said, I am, as a Kurd, really ashamed with the behavior of the organization in Kamishli in closing schools. I do not know why they are forcing their ideas to the other people. Cannot they see this creates animosity between people? Sorry, Christian brothers, my support is with you. And I love to see that. The unity, right is right, wrong is wrong. I say that all the time. Right is right, wrong is wrong. And someone who has true goodness in their heart, they can transcend political divisions, religious divisions, and unite with people who share that common sense of virtue and justice. There was some other comment that I didn't understand. A Syrian Christian wrote something that just seemed to not quite fit in. He said, quote, if the Zionists want to control us, we will fight them to the bitter end. Now, I didn't understand how this fit in, what Zionism had to do with the Kurds shutting down these Christian schools, so I started doing some research. And I came across this document and others like it. This is a special tax that the Kurds have imposed only on the Christians in the district of Erbil, which is just across the border in neighboring Iraq, Mosul and Erbil. Erbil is 80% Christian. So over in Iraq, the Kurds are doing these same kinds of things to the Christians over there. So across this whole northern region, Iraqi Kurdistan, Syrian Kurdistan, they're cracking down on the Christians. The YPG Kurds in Syria have invaded and occupied Christian communities like Tel Jazeera, Tel Baz in Syria. So in response, the Christians are rallying together to stand up to this Kurdish oppression. This other document is the decree of forced Kurdization in northern Syria and the reaction of the local populations. It was signed by about 16 major churches and organizations in northern Syria. And this includes the Syriac Orthodox Church, the Armenian Apostolic Church, the Syriac Catholic Church, even the National Evangelical Church, and several more. They're all uniting together against this Kurdish imposition of control. And among the statements made by this coalition of Christians is that while war and terrorism has caused suffering for all the different ethnic groups, the community of northern Syria has been able to peacefully coexist, even though they have ethnic differences, religious differences. But the imposition of these harsh changes by the de facto Kurdish government is creating oppression under the veil of their alleged legal authority, and that it's intolerable, as was the Kurdish effort to interfere with the education and upbringing of the Christian children. So these various documents didn't directly address the Zionist connection that I was looking for, but they did lead me to other documents which did have that information. So I'm going to talk about the Zionist role in the dividing of Syria in my next video. For Blackstone Intelligence, I'm Jake Morphonios.